welcome in everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. We got McLovin in the house. How's it going, man?
Well, no Pags, no dust. It's just straight craziness meets intellectualness.
I like that you pointed off the screen.
Yeah. So hey, I said that to say this.
People are in the chat.
I just said that to say this. It should be a hell of a fun show, I think. It's just going to be a lot of good things going on in sports. Miss Freebird is in the house. Always good to see her. But so how was your day, Ben? How was your day yesterday?
Long, man. It my day started at 4 like it always does. I got home about midnight because I had a Storm game. And It was the first game back after the All-Star break. And man, they were not ready for that game. They didn't score 20 points in any quarter.
Oh, damn.
There was a point in the game that they were 7.1% from 3-point. Like it was rough. It was bad shooting, just sloppy play all around. They're lucky it only ended up being a blowout.
Now, who did you guys play last night?
They played the Dallas Wings, so they had Paige Bucher and company coming in, and obviously they're a good team. They're a scrappy team, good rebounding team. So I mean, there's a lot of things that maybe their record doesn't necessarily show coming into Seattle, but they are a good team. And there was a last minute scratch of Skylar Diggins was not with the team last night. It just said for personal reasons, and it was a late cancellation. They didn't send that information out until about 45 minutes before game time, and they didn't announce it in the stadium until like 10 minutes before game time. So not sure exactly what happened. Obviously they left a lot up to speculation because it literally just said not with the team for personal reasons. And that was it. That's all the information that we got. And of course, since Skylar is the leader of this team, I don't know how soon the rest of the team knew either. Right. So that might have played a role in just kind of how off the team was last night. But man, if you saw it, it was something else. They were ahead by 10. The Wings go on an 8-0 run just before half. They're up 2. Then the Wings go on a 9-0 run right out of half. And then just continued to stretch it out from there. I think they ended up winning by 25.
Oh, geez. And you guys what place are you guys in? You guys are...
I think they're still sitting in 4th.
Yeah, so it's not like that game specifically hurt your – and again, you got playoff chance or playoffs for WNBA is a lot different, right? Because not as many teams. So as long as you're top 8, you're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, top 8 goes percentage-wise, it's very similar to the NBA, even though the NBA has a lot more teams. It's still a majority of the league still makes it in. So, but yeah, I mean, there's 13 teams. I think 8 teams make it in. So they're not in any danger of missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
There has been a trend over the last 4 or 5 games that the shooting has come down, and rebounding's been a problem all year, but the shooting percentage has come down, and a little bit more sloppy play has kind of creeped into the way the Storm has been playing. So it's something that's kind of concerning moving forward. They've found ways to beat good teams. They've also found ways to lose to bad teams. Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly, how they try and correct this. Obviously, last night you don't have your leader there, so that changes the dynamic of the game. I don't see that moving forward, because it's not like it was an illness or anything like that. It just said for personal reasons. So
that's the thing, right? I mean, if there's a bright spot in that, is at least it wasn't like an injury. And I don't know what her emergency was or anything like that. Hopefully it wasn't anything too serious, right? But for the team aspect, at least you're only maybe missing her a game, depending on what her circumstances are. But hopefully it's just one game. But like you said, it's not an illness, so she'll be back with the team. They'll pick up where they left off. So at least you didn't lose her to an injury, because that for sure could be a season ender. So
yeah, no, it's nothing like that. And the other thing is it might have just been a fatigue type of thing, right? Because she was one of the team's 3 All-Stars. We also had Erica Wheeler as a skills person, right? So they had 4 people at the All-Star break. There was only 1 day in between the All-Star break and the first game back.
Right.
So that was kind of odd, right? So it went All-Star break, day off, practice, game, right? And so that's a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what, though? And I almost want to believe in that reason, except for the fact that every other team is doing that and nobody else took off for personal reasons.
Well, no.
So I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, but Skylar's been in a long time. But the other thing, she's a vet, so I'm just saying it's potential. We don't actually have any information, right? They're just like personal reasons, and that was it. That being said, the Storm was a team that had more All-Stars than other teams, right? So yeah, Skylar was out for whatever reason, but we still had the 3 other people that were at the All-Star game.
Now that makes sense.
This game,
yeah.
Right? And so, some of the sloppy play could have been from fatigue also, because you got a lot of the players from the other teams coming in and, they've had 4 or 5 days rest, and you have 3 of your 5 starting lineup, and it would have been 4 of your 5 starting lineup that were all at this All-Star break with 1 day off before practice and playing. So, I mean, it's fatigue definitely could have played a factor in this.
Yeah, and you guys are you're like 6.5 games back right now in Minnesota. So I don't know how many games are left in the league right now. I know it's only halfway.
Yeah,
halfway
so the
through.
All-Star game is the halfway point. There's 44 games in the season this year. The first year of that, it was 40 last year, 44 this year. I would imagine that gets another bump next year when 2 more teams get added in. That being said, I think there's 21 games left, I think is what it is. And
yeah,
because
Minnesota's played 25 games in total so far. They had the most.
Yeah, well, and I think that's because early in the season there was a couple of a few teams that played a few extra games early. I know the Fever, I think, were one of those as well, that had a few games early on ahead of other teams. So, and some of that I think had to do with availability of the arenas because of hockey teams.
Yeah.
So I know that plays a factor for, Seattle. So, and I would imagine that would be true in a number of these other cities as well.
Yeah, I was just looking at New York, man. New York is playing pretty good basketball right now. I mean, they are behind Minnesota at 3.5, but when you look at their point differential, they're at plus 8.0, and Minnesota's at 10.2. So I mean, they're actually doing really, really well. And I think the Liberty, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know a lot about WM, but I just know what I listened to Frankie. I know the Liberty, I think, were champions last year, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, they're good. The Liberty has some injuries. And so that's why, if you look through kind of the games played, if you look at them early versus, approaching the middle of the season, you can see where people started to get hurt. And, the good thing for them is they're going to get healthy in time for the playoffs. Again, they're a great team. They're going to be in the playoffs anyway. So that's not really,
they're hot right now. I mean, the Liberty are on a 4-game win streak, and Lonskew just got the 3-point. I think she won the 3-point shootout at the All-Star game. So, Lonsky is a pretty. I didn't really know a lot about Lonsky until I started talking with Frankie, and he started educating me a little bit on Lonsky. And she's actually, I think she's kind of, she doesn't get a lot of credit like the Angel Reeses and Aja Wilsons and stuff. But man, that girl she can ball.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't really know much about her until the All-Star game, and I did watch the 3-point shootout at the All-Star game. That much I did catch, and she can shoot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of talent in the league. There's no doubt. And it's funny. Obviously, we want to talk about the All-Star game. They implemented the 4-point shot in that game. There was obviously also no defense played in that game. So, the scores ended up like 150, something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Like 154 to 131, I think, something crazy like
that. Yeah. So I mean, some of those are lack of defense. Skylar Diggins actually was the first triple-double ever in the All-Star game. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, I don't think they can put that 4-point shot in the game, right? As a gimmicky thing for the All-Star game, sure, whatever. But it would not be good for the leagues, I don't think.
Adam Silver certainly has floated around with it a little bit, talking about it.
I know, but it just doesn't.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to. Caitlin Clark wants to see it. She came out and vocalized that she loved the 4-point play. Whatever.
Well, of course,
great,
because
Caitlin,
she launches them from that deep anyway.
Of course. Her and Steph Curry would absolutely just terrorize the league if they introduced the 4-point play.
Oh, no question. And Gabby Williams, who was also at the All-Star game, she weighed in on that. And I do have that soundbite. So,
how's it going?
Are we gonna freeze up? What are we doing?
It's our internet today, man. It's our internet, Bo.
What is happening?
And it was a cool experience.
Yeah. Is it choppy for you?
Since you were playing against your team,
is it coming in and out for you?
Yeah, it is.
What
what is happening today?
Was that dynamic like?
It was pretty fun, actually. It was different, I guess. I don't know, but it was funny just to kind of joke around them. I joke around with them. I think it was actually more fun to play against them and mess with them than it was actually playing with them. If you're on the same team with on the same All-Star team. So it was just a different dynamic.
Perfect. Thank you.
They incorporated some
So this next question.
rule changes for the game. Are there any of those that you would like to see make their
Wow, that's annoying. The whole reason I brought the clip up was this part.
The 4-point shot was, I think that it would just ruin the game.
Well, I mean, there you go. She thinks it would ruin the game, and I tend to agree with her. I have no idea why that clip isn't playing.
That's just the internet sometimes. You know how the internet works.
Well, but the thing is it's playing from my computer, right?
Yeah.
So there's no internet issue on my end, right? If it didn't broadcast, fair enough, but it's choppy on my end. It's playing from my machine.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that doesn't make any sense. But in any event, she was also talking about playing against her teammates and her former teammates because she was playing on Caitlin Clark's team and the rest of the Storm were on the other team as well as her old teammates from UConn. So she was playing against all of her old teammates.
That is, and I can see why she thought that was fun though, because it probably is fun. Look, there's no, gravity. There's nothing weighted on that, right? It's just having fun. So when you're having fun, there's no, weight added to it. You can. I mean, I can see why she'd have fun, why they'd be messing around with each other. Hell, I'd do the same thing. That's a good time.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah,
of course. But the 4-point play, I think what she was saying, I guess what she was saying was she didn't like it either. And I got to imagine a lot of people probably aren't going to like that 4-point play.
Well, so she said she liked it for the All-Star game. She just thought.
Well, yeah, but not in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it plays smooth on the shorts. Like I don't know what the problem is today. Today is just a problem. But on the plus side, it's Wednesday, so it's my longest day.
Hump day, let's go. No, but so real question. So I know that the WNBA is going to get to 18 teams. I know we talked about that.
Yeah.
Have they said anything at all about what the other 6 teams, I guess, are going to look like in terms of bringing in? They're at 12 right now, I believe, correct?
So there's 13 teams.
13.
Valkyries are the newest team. They came in this year, the Golden State Valkyrie. Next year, you have Portland Fire, and then Toronto is also coming in. I haven't seen Toronto's name yet. But so Portland and Toronto are next year.
Okay.
Then you have Cleveland. You have Philly. And where's the other one? It'll end up 18 teams by 2030.
Right. And that really is, it's upsetting to me because I wish Houston was in that mix. I don't know why or what the issue is with Houston.
Detroit.
Is Detroit in there? Yeah. I just don't understand. And I don't know if that's a league thing or if that's just the owner of the Rockets not wanting to take it on or something like that. I don't know where the disconnect there is, but
yeah. Well, so the other thing that is interesting, and this actually kind of ties both of these things with WNBA together. So during the All-Star game, they were wearing shirts that said, pay us what you owe us, right? And people are losing their minds. They're like, oh, the league lost money and all of this. And accurate, right? You can see that fact. Last year, they lost like 40-something million dollars, right? But it's a very lazy take because, and I made this comparison in my morning show, is if you have actors on a movie and the movie doesn't sell well, you don't just not pay the actor, right?
Right.
It just is what it is, right? It just didn't produce money. The other thing about that is they've also done zero research to realize that they have a TV deal coming together right now for $2.2 billion, which is going to give the WNBA $200 million a year.
Right.
So if you have a league that's losing 40, but you're going to get 200, I feel like easy math says you're going to start making some money. Right.
Yeah.
And, plus you're moving from obscure networks that make it hard to watch the game, or streaming services that people don't have and stuff like that. This new contract is for ESPN. It's for Amazon Prime. It's for CBS. Right. So these are major networks. So you're going to get to see these games more prevalently without having to go search and hunt for them. Right. So you have a TV contract that's going to make the product easier to consume. One of the things that I've said over the last 2 years, it's like, man, you guys make this product really hard to watch. They're finally fixing that issue.
Right.
And then they're also bringing in actual money from it now, whereas before the TV deals haven't necessarily been that lucrative. So when people are like, oh, yeah, they don't deserve it. It's like, well, they do, though. Because you're talking about a league that's giving them, I think it's like 10% of the revenue, whereas every other league, NFL, NBA, MLB, like they're getting that 50% mark. So you're talking about 10% to 50%, like that's huge. And even if you were to just go to 20% and give these ladies somewhere close to that 200K mark, that's a huge step forward, right? Because right now your contract is like 73 to 80, somewhere in there, right? Here in Seattle, you're going to need a roommate if you make 70K a year.
No, I believe that 100%.
So it's, it's just, it's an interesting dynamic because there's people that are just hating on the league for no reason, or they're just leaning in on past stories rather than actually learning anything. It's kind of like the people that still say Lamar is a running back playing quarterback, just ignoring the fact that he's one of the most efficient passers in the league now. Right. It's like, yeah, he can still run, but you know what he also does really well now is throw the ball. Right. So, it's the same type of people that are just like, I'm going to double down on my story. Damn the facts. Don't let facts ruin a good story. Right.
No,
so
facts are horrible.
And so that's one of the things that's a little bit irritating when you listen to these takes. It's just like, yeah, I mean, if everything were to stay exactly how it is today, where the league's going to lose money and whatever, you're like, okay, I get it, right? Because if you're already losing a ton of money, it's hard to get more money. But if you were at a company that wasn't doing well, but you haven't made more money in a long time, are you still asking for a raise? Probably, right? So, yeah, it's an interesting take from people that doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're losing money, I'm sorry, it's a simple business. If you're losing money, then you don't have the revenue to pay. I'm sorry, the demand isn't there, and those players have to understand that they want to be paid what they're owed, but at the same time, if the viewership isn't there, how are you paying?
That's only kind of true though, because when you look at a lot of businesses, right, especially early on in their businesses, they're not profitable.
Right.
They survive on cash flow, on revenue.
Right.
Right. And so you can have a business that's not profitable, but you're still doing all the things. Plus, you also got to keep in mind the NBA used it as a tax shelter, essentially. So, I mean, they were subsidizing the WNBA anyway. So it's not like they were in a $40 million hole that wasn't getting paid, right? Like it's not like companies that run at a deficit just immediately go out of business. Look at the US government. I believe that's negative in the trillions, as I recall. So I'm pretty sure the WNBA can kind of figure out 40 million.
One would think, right? I mean, in all honesty, can we really use the government as a fair compare? Look, them dudes print money. Whatever, man.
Well, it seems like they would print more so that they could get out of this hole.
You would think.
But no, I mean, so ultimately what they're looking at with this new TV deal is actual profit. It's going to finally become a profitable deal. And when you look at the NBA, they weren't profitable for like their first 20 years.
Right.
So, I mean,
that's true. That's true.
It's not like these leagues are just instantly profitable.
Yeah. So if it's okay, so at $200 million a year now, they should be able to be at a price range to pay these players. What would you think? 250 to 800, depending on years in the league or whatever the case may be. Would that be their new income status?
I think I think where the CBA conversations are maybe getting hung up a little bit is kind of where that number fits in, right? Because you are adding 5 more teams moving forward, right? So that's a lot more mouths to feed because you're talking about front office, just general staff, all the players, all of that, right? So, I mean, you're talking a lot more players, a lot more staff for all of that. That's going to cut into that 200 million mark. Right?
For sure.
And so I would imagine there's a percentage number that is a sticking point from the player side, from the owner's side, So I imagine it's a work in progress. But to answer your question, yeah, I would imagine that number should be at least in that 250 mark, maybe more if it's available. But I mean, again, you got to give these people the funding to be professional athletes. People are like, oh yeah, well, I do this for, 60 or 70K. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I believe that. Right. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into a professional athlete that your average person doesn't pay for. Like your average person doesn't pay part of their contract to an agent. They don't have, some of the other travel expenses that come with things, paying taxes in all the cities that you play in. I mean, all of a sudden, when you're a professional athlete, you actually have staff you have to pay for to take care of some things for you because you are always in the gym and you're always training. And I mean, when you look at the schedule this year, there's a lot of games that it's a game, maybe 1 or 2 practices and a game, and you're in a new city. And so, I mean, it's a little different than just your average job. So it make things more expensive for the athletes. So when you hear about athletes that are like, oh, I can't make things bump together and they're making 10 million a year, nobody feels bad for you. But if you have all these extra expenses and you're only making 70K, and maybe 70K is a decent amount in other places, but I can tell you in Seattle, 70K doesn't get it done.
Well, not when that's 70K. After you pay all of those agents and people that are handling your affairs, probably gets bumped down to what, maybe 50, 45, 50 grand after you pay whatever those, you know what I'm talking about? Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. So really, you're not really getting that. Like you said, you're not really getting that 70 grand. You're actually getting a reduced amount of that 70 grand. But like you said, you got all those other expenses that you have to come out of pocket for.
Yeah, and then they still have normal bills too. They got fuel and rent and it's funny when people are making that comparison because it's just like, yeah, that's not really apples to apples. And even if you were getting the full 70, rents here in the Seattle area, because it's not like they can live super far away. Their practice facilities downtown. Their home stadium is downtown. It's not like these people are trying to live an hour and a half away, so rents are cheap. They're going to have to live somewhere where rents are somewhere in that like 2,500 to 3 or 4 or 5 grand. So I mean, you're talking a chunk of money right out the top just for somewhere to live. If you want to,
think about that. You got professional athletes that'll, if you think about it, especially like you talk about the cost of living of Seattle. That means you got professional athletes that, if they were living in Seattle, would be living pretty close to poverty line after they pay all their stuff. Because I mean, 40 to 50, not poverty, but you know what I'm saying. Like they're definitely living, you
know for a fact that they are taking every endorsement deal possible off season. You know, they're playing overseas to, supplement whatever.
Right.
There's a reason that a lot of WNBA players were leaving the league to go play overseas during the season for, the European Championship stuff because they were making more over there.
Right.
So, I mean, so for people to have such a weird sticking point, and it's generally people that don't even watch anyway. So I don't even know why they care other than they're just talking to talk.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You brought up the idea, or you brought up the sponsors, not sponsorships, but their endorsements. Thank you. So, how many of those players in the league do you think actually have pretty good endorsements? Obviously, we know the big ones, right? We know Caitlin Clark has the biggest endorsement deal, but like, what does a typical endorsement deal look like for WNBA? Because I don't think all them players have endorsements, do they?
Well, I mean, that just depends on the player, similar to any other professional sport, right? You're more visible frontline player, the Caitlin Clarks. I mean, I think her endorsement deals are like 10 mil a year.
Yeah.
Right. So her 70K doesn't really matter. Angel Reese, I think she's 2-3 million a year in endorsement deals. So again, her 70K, doesn't really matter. But if you're on the lower end of that roster that doesn't necessarily get those, I would imagine there's players that don't have any endorsement deals at all, or if they do, maybe it's like local car dealerships or something like that. Those are usually, 5-10 grand maybe, so I mean, it's not like it's great money unless you're one of the hallmark players, but and that's part of the issue, right? Is you got to be able to give these people wages that they can live on. And again, people are making the argument, well, I can live on 70K. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to be you don't have to be in a bunch of different cities. You don't have agents you got to pay. You don't have all these extra pieces. And then you also don't have to be downtown Seattle all the time.
And that's the point, right? They're making statements, I can live on 70K without knowing what the cost of living looks like around that 70K area. And again, like you said earlier, They're not getting that full 70 taxes, agents, staff, whatever. There's a lot. That's not 70K they're getting. They're probably getting more around like the 40 to 50 range,
Probably because I mean they also have to have CPAs because again you got to do taxes for
all these damn cities.
Right. So I mean it's just it's an interesting dynamic that people spout off about that have no real idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, it almost reminds me, like the endorsement just for, I guess, the WNBA reminds me just like the NIL in college. Not every college athlete gets paid in NIL money. Some of them do, some of them don't, and so for the ones that don't, that are reliant on just that 70K or whatever they can get maybe overseas to maybe offset some of their issues, I can understand why they'd be upset. I do. I understand it. Hopefully, maybe this 2.2 billion thing will make it a little bit easier for some of them.
It will definitely increase the eyeballs on the sport, right? Because now you're going to be on networks that people have in their basic cable packages. Instead of, I have to have, I have to see if my stations cover Ion or it's been on a couple of streaming services. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm not necessarily going to pay for a streaming service to watch the half a dozen games that are on it.
Right.
Right. And that's where so many of these things are really struggling. And it was funny because somebody brought it up in the morning show today is they're like, well, why don't they just have their own streaming service? And, it was funny because it was easy to make the comparison of why that wouldn't really work. And the best example of that was the Pac-12. A prominent Power 5 conference had its own network. And what happened to that conference? It fell apart.
Yeah,
they didn't make enough on their TV deal, right? And then they tried to get too much out of a different TV deal, and all the schools left. Now they're finding a way to try and rebuild this thing. But if you have a storied conference that has 100+ years of history and everybody that's in those alma maters of those schools that, would even be interested in buying the channel and they still didn't do it. You mean to tell me that the WNBA that doesn't have great following, that people have a hard time finding, is just miraculously going to have 1 million people sign up for their streaming app? No,
right.
That's not going to happen. So you need to get on channels that people have. Yeah. That's how you build that, right? Like the NFL, they didn't build their following being hard to find, right? Now they can afford to make it so you have to have these streaming things because they are the marketing juggernaut that they are. But early on, if they tried to do that, if they tried to make it so that you had to go hunt and find their product, the NFL wouldn't be what it is today.
No. Speaking of all that, I just saw today where ESPN is acquiring NFL Network, and I think they're also getting Red Zone and a couple other ones. So they're actually acquiring some of those streaming services. I wonder how long it's going to be before they start getting into NBA and stuff like that and try to acquire some of those streaming platforms or whatever.
Well, so I mean that's all part of Disney, and
yeah.
they've been working on NFL Network for a while. So there were conversations both sides. So there was a time where ESPN was trying to get NFL Network. There was a time where NFL Network was trying to get ESPN, and of course now ESPN owned by Disney. They're another company that just prints money. So they, right,
they really are.
They are in the acquiring mode of getting NFL Network, which makes sense overall. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that all comes together.
Yeah, I'm curious because if Disney acquired that, I wonder how much more. If you acquired Disney or whatever, then I wonder how much access that would give you to a lot more games. With that, what I'm saying, versus like you said, having them sprout through all these different streaming services. If Disney could acquire more of that,
well, so they can't because NFL Network doesn't really have any bearing on the NFL.
Okay.
Right? So So think of it like back in the day, General Motors had their own mortgage company of GMAC.
Yeah.
Right. They sell GMAC. It doesn't affect General Motors as a whole. Right. So it's just a subsidiary of the business. So NFL Network would, be bought by ESPN. Right. It wouldn't really do anything for the NFL's other TV contracts. So they would they'd still have deals with Fox and CBS and NBC and Netflix and Amazon. And so, I mean, it wouldn't affect any of that end of it. The one thing it probably would do is increase the quality of broadcast on NFL Network, because when you're watching some of the games and you watch it on, a national broadcast, and then you watch it on NFL Network, you're like, man, this is kind of a janky broadcast comparatively. And so maybe it'll get better.
Right. And that's really the thing. I remember, we all remember back in the early days before all these streaming services came about. Yep. You could watch everything you wanted to watch on ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, whatever, free. Everything was so visible. Everything was so easy. Everything was so nice. And then all these streaming services pop up, and then they start getting their hands in the pies and all these shows. And now, like you said, it makes it very hard for the consumer, to watch, because unless you got like a lot of money that, you could buy all these streaming services and it doesn't really affect you, that's fine. That's great. But if you don't have that kind of money, then you're like me over here. Okay, I can watch this show or maybe this show or this show in a month, and then that's it. That's all I get because I don't have those streaming services. So, because we talk about visibility. We talk about visibility with the WNBA, but some of it comes down to, do you have that service or not have that service to watch it?
Exactly. And the other thing of it is when you were buying cable, right, you're paying a chunk of money, but it's one bill.
Right.
And it had a ton of options, right? Now your streaming services are very specific, right? And so it's like, okay, we'll use Peacock for an example. You're trying to watch all of the NFL games, right? And they came out with a number that if you were to pay for all the streaming services and everything to watch all the games, it would cost you $1,500 this year.
Right.
But at the same time, say you were like, okay, I want to see the game that's on Peacock. Well, there's going to be there's 3 games on Peacock this year, 3 or 4. Okay. And they're not all going to be your team. It's just going to be whatever ones are slated to be on Peacock.
Right.
But if you don't watch any of the other shows on Peacock, are you going to spend the $10 to $15 a month to be able to watch those 4 games? Because most of these things are a year contract when you're buying these streaming services anyway, right? So are you going to spend that $120 to $200 for the 4 games? Or are you just going to be like, you know what? I'm good. Maybe I'll see 2 of them at the bar instead, right? And so when you look at the playoff game with the Chiefs on Peacock, there's a reason that there was like 10 million people fewer compared to the other playoff games. It's like, well, yeah, because people are like, you know what? I'm not going to get that. Or people were like, hey, our friend has this. We're just going to go watch it at their house, right?
Yeah.
Rather than everybody having their own streaming service. So it's why things like the Pac-12, their network, wasn't great either, because very similarly, people would be like, oh, you know what? My buddy has it. We'll just all go watch the Pac-12 games there.
Exactly. And that's the point. It's like, it's almost cheaper to just go to the bar or your friend's house or whatever the case may be and watch it there. Hell, if it's a bar, I can get I can get drinks and the game and maybe some bar food.
Yep.
Because like you said, if $1,500, if I want to watch everything that I want to watch, $1,500, that's a damn mortgage payment almost in some cases.
Yeah, in some cases for sure. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Not here in Seattle, but yeah, some places.
In some places, yes. So that's a problem, Bo. You just live in your state is just too rich. You got to move down here to Texas. Our cost of living is so much more easier.
It really is. It really is.
Because I don't know. I mean, because it sounds like everything. I mean, it sounds like everything on the coast, right? Whether it be East Coast or West Coast, is always expensive, man. It's just
big money. Yep.
Yeah.
And
the golf.
And you are right. If enough people pay it, then it can make it worth it. The thing is people are starting to get the they're starting to get a little bit of fatigue from streaming services because it's like, okay, it's $10 here, it's $12 here, it's $15 here. But people are starting to realize that they're not watching all of them, right? So a good example, we'll go back to the college ranks for this. So if there was the Pac-12 network, and then there's the SEC network and ACC network and all of that, right? So you have your favorite team, right? In my case, my Huskies were in the Pac-12, right? So say I'm paying for the Pac-12 and they're going to play the other conferences. It's like, okay, but those are away games. Those will be nationally televised, right? So am I going to pay for the streaming services for all of those other ones? Of course not, because I don't care about those other teams. I'm going to see them anyway. I just want to be able to see my home team. So that's where this starts to become a problem. And, you end up with, it's like, okay, you know what? I don't watch anything else on this. I'm going to miss these, 2, 3, 4 games, but whatever, I can probably catch them somewhere else. That's where the streaming services don't really work, because when it was with your cable company, it was just one bill. And even if you added something, it still came on the one bill. Now you're getting these like 15 different $10, $15 bills, and it makes you pay attention to it more. So instead of it just being looped into something, you're like, oh, I spent $230 on cable this month. Oh yeah, that's right. I rented this thing and whatever, right? Now it's like, okay, this is the 15th $10 bill of the month. It's like, okay, let's just cancel some of these. We're not watching enough of them anyway. And so that's where some of these really start to fall apart, and why a bunch of these streaming services aren't making money. ESPN Plus is a great example. They don't make money. It's actually a loser for the ESPN brand. Same with Disney Plus. Disney Plus doesn't exactly light it up when it comes to their streaming service.
Right. Yeah. And still the consumer who used to watch ABC, CBS, and NBC, we're all those old Gen X people, we're all there like, assholes. Gotta spend all this damn money. I used to get this crap for free.
Well, yeah, because you don't have rabbit
We
ears
used to get all this for free, Bo. Now we got to pay all this money, man. Like, damn.
Oh no, I remember I had TVs with the rabbit ears on top. Like I get it.
Let me tell you something. My dad used to make me sit there. Okay, Jay, we need a little bit more aluminum foil on the left ear, less on the right ear, and then go 18 degrees this way. Oh, perfect. Now just don't move, Jay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Don't just stand there.
Don't move.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't miss those days. In some ways, I don't miss those days. But anyway.
Yep.
Shall we talk baseball?
I mean, we should, but let's start it, since we're going to go to baseball. Let's start it with this. Hopefully this clip will start. This is a good indicator that the challenge is coming, right? Because we had it in preseason, All-Star game. It's going to be in the postseason. But it's this stuff right here that really shows you that it's coming. But robot calls may not be far behind if this is the quality of umpiring we have. So here we go.
Square foot roof.
Man, we're really just struggling today.
He goes a foot off of the plate, 240,000 feet off.
Wow. I don't know what the major malfunction is here today, but oh well.
Okay, but the fact that you just heard a foot off the plate and he's calling it a strike? What?
And that wasn't even the worst one, right? So I did the top 10, and it the first one, I mean, it was bad, but it was probably like 3-4 inches off. The number one, and of course, this is on my YouTube. If you're watching, you'll be able to see it seamlessly, whereas apparently that's not a thing on this show today. But the last one was probably 7 inches off the plate. To add insult to injury to it, the catcher wasn't even set up in the zone and also didn't try to frame it. And all 10 of these are punch out calls. These are all called strike threes that are nowhere near the zone. And these are all from this season in the first half of the season. So it's pretty wild. pretty wide.
So a couple of things come to mind. Number one, it'd be really hard to frame a pitch that's about a foot off because that'd be like coming from way over here. Oh, yeah, now it's right here. No, it was over here, but now it's over here. I mean, no. But
these were all called strikes.
And that's what blows my mind. So, and that's the second part that goes through my brain. Number one, how do you frame a pitch that's a foot off the plate? Number two, are these umpires being paid? Like, it seems like there's some stuff going on. Are they getting like some illegal betting crap? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, why are you calling it a foot off the plate?
Brought to you by FanDuel.
You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. I mean, come on, man. Listen, I get maybe it's hard to distinguish an inch or two or maybe even 3 inches. I'll even give you that much. But when you're going to a foot off the plate, everybody knows that that's a ball. But you're calling it a strike. That makes me think, is there something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about?
Yeah, and see, and that's the issue is if you're close to the zone and you have a really good catcher framing the pitch, I'm fine with it. Or if you have an ump that stretches a zone in a similar spot for both teams, okay, you can adapt to that. But when you're talking about a guy that just called a strike that, is 4 or 5 inches out of the zone, like there's nothing you can do about that.
You know what I mean?
I mean, your bat's only so long. I mean, if you got a pitch that's 4 or 5, or the last one that was like 7 inches out, I mean, you're going to need a 56-inch bat to go get that thing.
But do you think? I mean, because that does make me think that maybe there's some illegal fixing of games going on with these umps. If they're calling strikes like that, I'm not saying that it is, but it does make it look suspicious. I mean, come on, guy. It's 12 inches off the plate. Yeah. I mean, how do you explain that? Like, where's it? Like, even if you watch it in real time, like if I'm the commissioner of baseball, I'm probably gonna bring that up and say, look, guy, that's 12 inches off the plate. Now, I might not be, the most best eye of person to be able to see, but I'm also not Ray Charles. I can see it's 12 inches off the plate. You know what I'm saying? I can see it physically off the plate, 12 inches. The dude, I don't understand that. Like that blows my mind.
No, it's tough to watch. It's those types of things that you're just like, I don't really understand how you're like, if it was just one during a game, maybe you blinked, right? Like if you blinked at the wrong time and they framed it and all you saw was where the glove ended up, it happens, right? People blink all the time. Cool. But I mean, there's been some of these umps that have been in the like 82 to 84% accuracy range. That is atrocious.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is changing the outcome of games. If you miss one here or there, will people be annoyed? Sure. But would people get it? Of course. When you're missing 10, 12, 15 pitches, that's an issue. That's the entire side of baseball that you're just like, okay, I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah. Because you got to imagine the pitcher that threw that pitch that went 12 or whatever it was off the plate. Even he's like, damn, all right, that's a ball. Strike. Oh, all right, I'll take that strikeout. Sure. He knows damn good well it wasn't no strikeout, but he'll take it.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. If you go and watch that clip, there's a couple of catchers and even the batters were just like, oh, that's a walk. And they're like, bam. And you're like, wait, what? And, so then the catcher launches the ball and the batter's like, what? So, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. They are sure making a case for the robot umps, but they're almost guaranteeing that the challenge is a full-term thing next year. Because when you have stuff like that, like that's the easiest challenge ever. You're just like, review the tape or the head tap or how this would ultimately end up doing it. But you're going to win that one every time. You're going to be like, look, that thing was so far out of the zone. Like, I don't know how you missed it, but the rest of the stadium didn't.
You know what I mean? I mean, and that's the thing. It's not even just a state. I mean, the whole league. Anybody watching that game realizes that.
Yes.
I mean, I understand 3 to 4 inches. Maybe your eye doesn't catch it quick enough. Okay, But when you're that far out, that even the catcher says, "I'm not going to try to frame this because this is clearly, obviously, too far out to frame."
Yeah,
I don't. That's the part, like you said, boy. That's the part that just makes me wonder. Like, come on.
I wonder if I can get it to at least play the number one because it's so bad.
Oh, a called strike.
Oh, that's like. God,
I mean, look how far that is. That's almost half a plate.
God,
and when you
terrible.
see him, he's not even set up in the zone, right?
No.
And your ump is over the zone, right? The catcher is completely like his knee is what's centered behind the plate. And so when this thing comes in, if you see his glove, oh, too far. Come on. Oh. Man, this is just killing me today. So you could, I mean, the ball's halfway there and it's already out of the zone.
That ball was never even in the zone. Even when it came out of his hand, it was already outside.
And look, like he didn't even try to frame this thing. Like he's so far out of the zone, he would have had to reach over like this to try and put it into the bat,
That's
into the strike zone. So it's wild to me. And of course, this ends up going as a punch out.
Oh, a called strike and Mag.
Just crazy to me.
Yeah, that is nuts, man.
So, but
now, I gotta be honest. If I was a fan that day, I'd be pissed.
Oh yeah, and I mean, easily, it guarantees that the challenging of pitches happens next year.
Oh God, yeah. I wouldn't be. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they say they're going to use the robot umps in the playoffs this year?
Well, no. So you're not doing robot umps. Basically, it's batters challenges.
Okay.
So the batter can challenge a strike or a ball. It doesn't sound like they totally have worked out how many times during a game you can do it, but they tried it out during preseason. They did it during the All-Star game, and they said they're going to do it in the postseason, right, through all the playoffs and the World Series. But they didn't do it during the regular season. This caliber of calling strikes and balls makes you think that it's guaranteed to go in because it's worked well in the preseason anyway. And as bad as these calls are, I don't know how you don't implement it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the human element of the game just as much as anybody else does, but I really believe that it's time for robot umps. It's time for robot umps because it gives you a guaranteed non-biased strike zone for every pitcher and for every hitter and for every team.
And it's
it just takes all that guesswork out of it. All you need is that human guy there to call the outs or the saves when that dude hits, whatever.
No, and it's funny because I like the challenge element. I don't love the robot ump because it takes so much skill out of the game when it comes to the catcher, right? Because the way the guys would frame it, or if your umpire is consistent in maybe the misshapen strike zone, right? Maybe he's just not seeing the lower part of the zone, so it's extending it an inch or two, but it's the same for everybody. Okay, that's fine. Like I'm good with that. I'm fine with the adjustment of the human element to it. But when it's like this, then you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe robot umps is where we gotta go. Because man,
I mean, I think it keeps it pure. Because look, let's be honest. Sometimes people can be persuaded. We know they can be persuaded. Listen, we know cheating's been in baseball long before the Astros ever hit a trash can. I promise you that much. I mean, it's always been a part of it. Yeah. I mean, we know we've seen umpires and referees and stuff that have been, had legal issues with calling fixed games or whatever. I just think if you put a robot up in there, it just takes all of the issues out of it, right? It takes some of the issues out of it, and it makes it an even playing field for every person that goes up there, But
yeah, No,
But I
I mean,
understand also that I understand that people like to have that human element, but sometimes the human element kind of screws us over a little bit.
yeah, well, but it goes both ways, right?
Yeah,
So I mean,
sometimes it goes both
against
ways.
you.
Sometimes it goes because what if you get an ump that, like I said, is more predominant towards another team versus the other team?
Oh, no. I'm not saying there's not bias. I'm just saying that, calls going your way and calls going against you, it ends up evening out generally, right?
I'll give you that. Yeah.
So like over a period of time, right? Like in a given game, it may burn you, but over the course of a season, probably not. Obviously that's ruling out somebody that just has a hard on for a specific person, right? Like dude with Chris Paul, like if he's reffing the game, Chris Paul's going to lose, right? Like that just is what it is. So, I mean, there are some of those types of things that go on, but for the most part, it usually ends up balancing out. So that's where I'm like, well, I like some pure elements of baseball still in baseball, even though we're evolving away from it. But then you see stuff like this that's so egregious that you're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it just is what it is, and we got to go to the robots.
Yeah, and I think the more and more it seems like the more and more we're going along that eventually you got to imagine at some point in 26 that there'll be a robot up somewhere in there. That's what I'm guessing, but I might be wrong. I thought we were gonna have. I thought I heard something in the news where they were talking about doing the robot for the postseason of this year, and then possibly depending on how it went during the postseason, they were going to institute it next year in the regular season.
No,
but maybe I heard that wrong. Maybe I heard.
No, it's the robot assist. It's the challenge of the play.
Okay, that's what they were talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so they're not going to do the full-on robot umps. Basically, what it is when they challenge a strike or a ball, then they go to the robot to see if it was in the zone or not.
Oh, so in other words, okay, so they're going to have the robot doing it, but it just won't be announced unless you challenge, and then they'll go to the robot to see how the robot would have called it.
Well, and it's already doing that. Yeah, they already do it because they show you exactly what they'd be basing it off. So on replays all the time anyway.
Right.
So I mean, it's not like the technology isn't already there. They're just making it so that when you challenge a play, they actually get to use that footage. So that's going to be the difference, but they're not going to that. That being said, if they keep doing stuff like this, they will.
You almost think though that these, NBA, MLB, whatever, that do you think they'd have a quality control person that looks at this so the coaches wouldn't even have to monitor? In other words, if they got a quality control guy that's watching the ump and watching these balls come in, he'd be like the second set of eyes that says, no, he got that one wrong. And hey man, no, you called that one wrong. I just watched it, no, that was a strike. Yeah, you think there'd be somebody in his ear that like a second quality control guy that all he does is monitor this to where they wouldn't even have to challenge. It would just be already.
No, see, they're not doing any of that because they're leaving the human element back in it. Like in football, throwing flags, right? Like some refs will call ticky-tack. Some of them will let guys beat each other up, right? But as long as they're consistent all day, they kind of let those things go. It's with this where it's becoming inconsistent and, somewhat egregious when you look at some of these. That's where they're going to find their way out of these positions. You'll still have to have an umpire behind the plate. So it's not like that would go away, right? Because they're still able to make plays at the, calls at the plate. But it's just going to be you're not going to, if they keep doing stuff like this and say there's more bad calls than there are challenges available, then that's where they're going to force their hand to start doing potentially a robot situation. And it takes some of the skill away, it takes some of the purity away, but it would sure add a lot of accuracy to it.
Could you imagine that quality? I know I was done. Could you imagine the quality control guy on that play number one? Let's be honest. That guy is literally lined up all the way outside of the neutral zone, and you're the only one left there. And that ball was 12 inches to the right. Have you been drinking? Do we need to breathalyze you?
We could have put an entire hot dog between the ball and the plate, man. Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, but it'll be interesting to see if they implement it. They really should at this point. Again, we're talking about the challenges, the robot umps. I would bet the robot probably does become a thing in the next 5 years, though.
Yeah. You got to, that's why I've got to imagine that it's going to be going that direction. What a time to be alive, man. I tell you, the game changes every day.
It does. It does. And I mean, it's not like other sports don't do the same thing. Like they change rules all the time. It's just there's so much history to baseball. It's been played for so long that some of the history getting eliminated from it is, disappointing. But then at the same time, you see that maybe these umps don't take the same pride that ones used to.
Because this had always used to be a thing. The balls being being called outside of the zone, different way. That didn't used to be a thing. I remember when I was watching baseball, back in the 80s, 90s, whatever. This was never a thing. At least not that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, there were missed calls back then too. But
I'm not saying there were missed calls, but it wasn't like it is now. I don't think. Where it's so obvious, was it?
I think it might have been had you had the same technology then that you do now.
True.
I think you just didn't know because one, you're talking about analog TV on a 13-inch set. So it's a fuzzy image already.
That's a good point.
And then you didn't have, 14 cameras watching it and, from every angle. You didn't have computers building the zone. So, I mean, you didn't really know. Your one camera angle on the sports broadcast was off center, so you couldn't even get a squared up look at the plate anyway.
That was true.
I think there probably was a lot of mistakes in the past. You just didn't.
We just didn't know about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go.
That being said, that brings us to the top of the hour. If you're watching along with us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our stuff to you. Wherever else you're watching, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.